Hey everybody, welcome back to Some Things Fishy. My name is Landon and we are super stoked to have you back on the channel. If you haven't yet, subscribe and be a part of this community. We're starting to gain some really great traction on YouTube and we are super excited for it. We've got a lot of great videos about clownfish headed your way, so stay tuned, hit that bell icon, and you will be notified of all the great content that we have and when we release it. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about clownfish pairing. We've covered a lot about clownfish recently. We've talked about just the ultimate care guide. We've talked about clownfish feeding, clownfish and anemone hosting, a lot of things like that. We've even talked specifically about maroon clownfish. So you can go on our channel and check out those videos and those guides that we've just recently put out on YouTube. But today I want to talk about clownfish pairing. In my opinion, this is one of the coolest things that clownfish do is they pair together and they form a school of fish. So if you have two, you can have these two fish that are always swimming in unison. You can kind of see these two white clowns that we have, they always swim together, they're paired. And that is something that's really cool to do with clownfish. Not all fish pair like clownfish do. The question is, how do you get your clownfish to pair? Because for example, I have a 16-gallon BioCube with two clownfish in there, and those fish aren't paired. They were never paired, and they will never pair. So I'll get into telling you a little bit more about why that is, why I'm in that situation with my two clowns in my 16-gallon, and I'll compare it to this situation of these two white clowns here that you're seeing on the monitor back here and on the screen, and why they are paired. So the biggest thing that you need to know, the biggest recommendation that I can give you if you're really wanting to get a clownfish pair is, first, you either buy a pair of clownfish that are already paired, or second, you buy two clownfish that are babies, that are really young, so that they grow up together and pair and are just always together. The issue can be if you buy a clownfish that's already older and already developed and already bigger and try and pair it with some other clownfish that might be smaller, might be a baby. That's the situation that I have in my 16-gallon, where I bought a baby black clownfish, black ocellaris clown, and I then later bought a fully grown, like 3-year-old clown that was from somebody else's tank. I bought it from them, from a store that bought it from them. And that was the issue. They will never pair. They're super friendly together. They get along, there's no aggression, nothing like that, but they are not paired. They don't swim in unison, they're not part of the same school of fish. Even though they're the same type of clownfish, they will not pair. So let's go and break down that first tip that I gave. Buy a couple clownfish or multiple clownfish that are already paired, already part of the same school. You can see that a lot of the time in fish stores. You'll see clowns swimming together. They're familiar with each other. Maybe they hatched together from eggs, and you'll see that they're already paired. They're swimming in unison. They're always going the same direction with each other. That's how you can tell if they're paired. A lot of the times you can buy online or in the store clowns that are already grown, are already matured. One's already a female, a larger one, and one's already the male, a smaller one. And you can buy those right there from the store, that pair, and they're gonna be paired for life. So if you really want a pair and you wanna make sure that they pair for sure, the biggest, most obvious recommendation that I can give you is to buy a set of clowns that are already pre-paired. Now let's get into that second topic that I discussed. Buy clownfish when they're young and kind of incentivize them to pair. So a lot of times you'll see some videos on the screen of clowns that are young and they're just hatchlings, little baby clowns in a tank, and there's 100 of them or 50 of them together. If you buy a couple of clowns, a set of clowns from that tank, you are very likely those clowns are very likely going to pair. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Buy them when they're young. Buy them when they're young, just like, a set of puppies or something like that. It's very similar. They grew up together. They're likely siblings. They're likely from the same hatch, from the same breed. And that's a really, really good thing. That's going to influence them to pair together. And what's interesting about clownfish is one of them will become the female and turn larger and keep growing to a larger size, and one will stay the male and stay smaller. So that's something that I would also, if you're going to go that route where you want to buy like baby clownfish, I would buy one that's already a tad bigger and one that's a tad smaller. And they could be tiny still. They could still be babies. very, very small. But that's one thing that, you know, I was talking with some professionals and some people at the store, and they're like, yeah, if you want these guys to pair, the best thing that you can do is get them when they're hatchlings. And I don't even know if hatchlings is the right word for fish, so my mistake if it's not. Correct me in the comments, let me know what the correct term is. But buy one, a baby one that's a little bit bigger, and then another baby one that's a little bit smaller. The bigger one will likely become the female because it's already got the size advantage, and the smaller one will stay the male, and they will pair very easily. The other thing that I would tell you to do, this isn't the biggest thing, but another thing to keep in mind is you should try and keep clownfish in the same breed, the same species, if you really want them to pair and if you really want them to get along. We have a whole guide, a whole clownfish compatibility guide on YouTube already. It's currently our top performing video. We really love it, and we love the direction it's heading. But we have a whole guide breaking down like what species, what types of clowns are really good together and what types might not be a good fit. So keep that in mind. And I'll do a quick breakdown right now. So ocellaris clowns are kind of like the main generic clownfish, for lack of better words. They're very common to buy on the market, and they're also very cheap. Anything ocellaris, and I'm about to make a designer clownfish video. I should release that today, hopefully, as well. But anything in the ocellaris breed is going to be fine. They're gonna pair together really well. As soon as you get further down that breeding chain, maybe you have like a regular orange clown, and then you have like one of these white ones. Oh, not that one, but one of these white snowflakes or something. They're likely going to be fine. But the further you get down from the breed chain, the further you get down the designer chain, the harder it can be for them to actually pair and get along well. Percula clowns, so you have ocellaris clowns. There's also percula clowns. Ocellaris and percula tend to match pretty well. They tend to be pretty compatible. It's a little bit more of a stretch than just sticking in the ocellaris breed. But you know, you should be fine getting something from the percula strand and something from the ocellaris strand and getting them to go together well. They should be able to pair just fine. It might take a little bit of extra work and extra time, and you know, to be honest, they might not actually pair, but it is something to keep in mind that you'll probably be okay. But in the end, if you really, really want a pair of clownfish, you want them to pair and be together and form that school, that bond, the best route that you can go is to get the exact same breed. So like an orange ocellaris clown and an orange ocellaris clown, or two snowflakes or two perculas, something like that. That's going to be the best route for you. One strand of clowns that I've already made a lot of videos on are the maroon clowns. Those ones are hyper aggressive, extremely hostile. Your fish is likely not going to survive if you're trying to pair it with a maroon clown. I've got some videos in here. I've got a whole video about maroon clowns and why you probably shouldn't get one, because they're just hyper aggressive. I don't know what happened in the breeding with those, but they have just turned into a pretty hostile fish. So I would highly recommend that you don't try and pair another type of clown with the maroon clownfish. And to even go even further, maroon clownfish are even hostile towards their own breed, and they'll often kill off their own fish. It's kind of like two beta fish almost. It's almost to that level where you can't really have two beta fish together. It's kind of how it is with maroon clowns. They're very aggressive, and they'll even kill each other. So I wouldn't try and pair a maroon clown with really anything else. You can try. You're likely going to be upset and disappointed. But in terms of clownfish pairing, buy a set that's already paired, buy a set when they're young, and try and keep it in the same species, the same breed, but you can kind of experiment a little bit and it might be okay. You're probably fine. But that's what I'd recommend in terms of clownfish pairing. This is Some Things Fishy. Super stoked to have you guys here. If you made it to the end of this video, good for you. Only like 11% of our viewers and most viewers on YouTube actually watched to the end. So thanks for being here. If you haven't, subscribe, like, comment the video. That helps us more than you know. Thanks. We'll see you on the next one.